Hello.
Ready, steady, go.
Hey.
Hey.
Surprisingly, there are three voices here. And just like always, it's Dima Malenko. Hi, Dima.
Yes, it's me.
Then it's me, Vyacheslav Rudnitsky.
Hi, Vyacheslav.
Here is our friend, Andrii Suslenko. We are surprisingly having a guest episode today. We haven't been doing those for about a year now. And here we are again. But in our English-speaking track, this is the first one. So probably everything seems brand new for you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Slava. Thanks a lot, Dima. Happy to be here. Happy to be the first in a year.
Yeah, that's really. I think it's even more than that. I think we plan to make this as more for a regular thing to have guests every fourth episode or something like that. So you will be breaking the ice for everyone who is to come after you.
Perfect.
So just a few words why Andrew is here. He's my very good friend from Aspen, and we met back in 2019. And back in the day, he was one of the major specialists in terms of communications. I think both internal and external, but mostly focusing on internal ones for huge, let's say, tech company. NDAs and stuff. I'm kind of afraid, Dima is top secret guy. And he's top secret. I'm probably the only one who can say, I work for Savvy, guys. And I can say it loudly. And nowadays, Andrew is mostly doing coaching, if I'm not mistaken. And as far as I get it, he's quite good at it. That's why today this will be our main topic. But apart from that, I've seen Andrew in working as a facilitator, as an instructor, as a consultant, and many other dimensions related to team management, people management, communications, etc. And if there is something you would like people to know about you, please do add.
Yeah, I also do podcasts.
All right. So tell us more. What's the podcast? What's the name? Where to find it?
So aside of my professional life, which is coaching consultant, and currently at these times, it's mostly individual clients. And since the war broke out and on full scale scope, my business clients decided to remain more or less kind of saving money. So now I see that individual clients are kind of picking up, and even one business client is appearing. So I see the good traction. And my other part of life, my other role is like a former journalist and the media guy. So I host a podcast that is called How You Think, where we trying to find out what created that set of thinking patterns for a specific person that is my guest. What kind of things happened in the past? What was the influence of the education? What was the influence of the leadership that this person has had in his life or her life? What were the decisions that this guy or the lady made, and how did he or she got into making that decision? And yeah, so basically I am curious about people, and I'm curious about myself. I've been for 8 years in psychotherapy as a client, and also educated in the first first part of four course Gestalt therapy thingy. So yeah, How You Think is a podcast that you can Google online. There's actually quite a few episodes in English already, and I'm planning on advancing that in English. Yeah.
And in case you are Ukrainian speaking, I strongly recommend listening to all of those, because I'm a subscriber from the very first episode, and this is one of the few shows in Ukrainian podcast community that I enjoy. So guys, my strong recommendations. We'll leave a link to this podcast in our show notes.
As we always do.
So, back to the topic. Why I invited you to talk to us about coaching. I think that today when people say coaching, they mean so many different things. And whenever some clients ask for coaching, it could also mean pretty much anything. And it requires a lot of clarification, discussion, talking. Apart from that, there is a number of, let's say, experts who are so-called experts who claim to be coaches after 3 months of some kind of online course, and then they start taking clients. And this also kind of harms the reputation of coaching itself. So I would like to dig deeper today into what coaching is, what coaching isn't, and how it actually works. Why would an organization or a team require a coach at certain level or a specialist, and how it works.
Good.
So, like many of our podcasts, I would like to start with definitions. And I've noticed that someone has already prepared some.
It was me. It
wasn't me.
Yeah,
I'm
was
sorry,
me.
I didn't do anything for that.
That's right. But it was not easy. I must say, like what I did, I Googled, right, and as most searches on Google, they ended up on Wikipedia. So I copied the definitions from Wikipedia articles about the different terms that we probably are going to touch in this discussion. But what was interesting that in many of those articles, it was mentioned that there are around 50 definitions of X, like 50 definitions of coaching. Here is one of them for you. So this is this thing. So take it with a grain of salt. It came there straight from Wikipedia, but it may not be the most accurate or the best definitions out there.
Should it?
So what I actually suggest doing is that there are 5 terms. So we could take turns and just explain with our own words what we understand by this word. The first word is a coach. Andrew, as a guest, please, why don't you define a coach by yourself?
Yeah, I would think that we would have to take a look into the sports as a genre, I would say, and we would find that coach is the persona that actually makes sure that the athletes that are on the team are getting to the result that is needed. So we would see that the coach in itself, as we know it today, as the tool to help people to resolve whatever they need to resolve, actually arises from the sports genre. So for me, this is a persona or a human being that could help a team in the first place, or a sportsman, an individual, to achieve his or her goals. So that's where it comes from, at least how I know it.
Mm-hmm. Well, in my case, these sports activities and business activities are some kind of divided right now because of the methods that coaches use. And I would say sports coach is an independent area because coaches there, in my understanding, they're closer to trainers because they do provide a lot of input from themselves. They explain, they guide, they give directions. While coaches in business area, in many cases, they are not that much into guiding, but rather supporting or reflecting and working rather with questions more than just some kind of solutions or strategies or something along those lines. It does depend, because there is another dimension of executive coaching. But I think that for me, sports coaching and business coaching is different in terms of the method. And a business coach is a person who is there to help a person achieve the results by not interfering with suggestions, methods, or any kind of tools from one side.
May I interfere here? So in that case, I do agree with both notions. But I saw your question as a question, what is it coming from? And what's the first that comes in mind? So the sportist thing came to mind at first. But yeah, I distinguish, of course.
Sure. My point was like the way you understand the word right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will also step in because I think initially I wanted to side with Andrii on that. To me, it seems that structurally, at least, coaching in both business and sports are similar in a sense that coach is not necessarily the best professional in what they're coaching, right? The sports coach is not the best athlete. They may used to have been, but not necessarily. But that they bring outside perspective or something like that to guide the person, the athlete or whoever to achieve results in specific area, which is to me is structurally similar to what happens in business coaching, where business coach is not necessarily the best businessman out there, but they bring, let's say, outside perspective to help those under coaching to achieve certain results.
So basically what 3 of us agree about is that the outcome of coach's work is achieving the result. that the team or coachee or someone gets closer to what is planned or aimed.
Or which is a different result from a result that you could have gotten without this coach.
Mm-hmm. All right. Then just to heat it up a bit, let's discuss mentors. Who are the mentors for you?
Good. Last week, I actually called a gentleman that I do want to be my mentor. So this is the first time actually I had a chat with someone that I wanted to be my mentor. And I wanted a mentor. Why? Because I'm at the point of life where I think I'm on the edge of something new coming in. And I'm 36, and I find this gentleman as someone who have gone through the way, like the path that I'm going through right now. So basically, he knows who he is, how he is, what he does, what he does not, what he wants, what he doesn't want, basically. And he is also in the consultant and educational business as a Kima Hill Business School lecturer and having his own practice. So how he is in his 53 looks up to me like how I want, or it looks like the vector of the direction that I want to take. So I figured out that to get towards my direction in this pace that I would enjoy, I would need to talk to someone who has done this route already, or who is successful in that path. So I chose this gentleman for that reason. So things which I would point out, this person seems to me that he has gone through the path that I want to go. Then he's successful in that. Then I have chemistry with him or her. And because I was educated by him at Kima Hill Business School, I had chemistry. So I had this desire. Yeah. And so these three things give me a chance to call someone my future mentor. Yeah.
So if I got you right, just to clarify, you basically mean that a mentor is some sort of a role model that you would like to follow, and you can cooperate with this person directly to take some best experience, practices, features from one.
That's how I wanted this to happen. It went different direction, because there's no room for mentorship at that person's life. But then what you're saying is exactly how I want it.
Mm-hmm. That's how you would define a mentor. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Dima, would you like to follow up?
I think I would largely agree with Andrei's definition. To me, the key characteristic of mentorship as a process is that it is primarily revolves around, say, knowledge transfer. So we have a person who is more knowledgeable, more experienced in something, and the process is set up for them to be able to transfer that knowledge, that expertise to someone else, supposedly of a kind of more junior stance that mentor person.
Mm-hmm. I would probably expand this a bit more and saying that it would be knowledge, experience, and skills. So I would just somehow broaden those things. And in my understanding, mentors mostly work one-to-one. So it's an individual format. Probably it could be group mentoring, but in my personal beliefs, the most effective one is when you work face-to-face, hand by hand, nose to nose, back to back, or whatever. But it's an individual sort
palm
of work.
Palm to palm.
This is a bridge too far, but
yeah. Maybe group mentorship. Maybe it's called master classing, right?
This is where you go on this thin ice of mixing up roles, and pure mentor for me would be an individual expert who can share one's skills, knowledge, and experience with another person.
Agreed.
Makes sense.
All right, then we can move up to trainer.
Yeah, and let's this time around. Let's start with you, because you already made some jokes about trainers earlier in the discussion, I think. So how would you define it? Trainer.
It's like Afro-Americans are allowed to make jokes about Afro-Americans, while other people should be much more careful. So I'm allowed to make jokes about trainers, being a trainer myself. And I would say this is an educational expert who is capable of transferring knowledge or facilitating knowledge transfer to a group of people. And in many cases, this person has some sort of practical experience in this field, but not necessarily the entire set of skills. Because nowadays the tools are so broad. For instance, trainer could be teaching technical writing even without being an expert in technical writing, because there are a lot of guides, activities, and things he could run and still grow the expertise if one picks good materials, gets feedback, prepares well, etc. That would be my understanding.
I clap in agreement.
Well, not that we all kind of agree. I also agree. But would you also agree that sort of a defining characteristic of a trainer or activity being conducted by a trainer is the kind of reusable set of training materials that they rely on? Something like the trainer, the process that spans with trainer over time. I think I'm butchering it, but like they do the same thing over and over and over again. So I deliver the course on like database design this week, and I'll do exactly the same thing for different group of people in 2 weeks, and so on.
That's where the trainer becomes a teacher
or a lecturer or something along those lines. Yeah, I agree. In my understanding, it's actually doesn't matter whether it's the same program or a different program. The idea that it's done professionally and it achieves the results. And if it happens to be more dynamic environment, like let's say Sevi, we get different requests on weekly basis, and we cannot deliver the same workshop to a different group of people the way it looked for initial group when it was designed. So we have to adapt things. And I would say that the core expertise here is to pick the methods that work best for the specific request, for the specific goal. Sometimes they match, and it could be the same activity. Let's say a webinar for 45 minutes about time management. There is not much room for improvement there, but that's a lecture. Pretty much, you don't need to be an educational expert to deliver a lecture. But if you would like people to learn to prioritize, that would be a totally different set, like activities, tools, understanding
and what would
the
be
level of
the
people.
educational expert for you? Who is the educational expert?
You should say me. Say me.
Yeah. Well, he is, but let's hear from him. What is?
I'm quite a result-oriented person, so I would say that would be an expert who is able to deliver educational goals to a team or a group. And how it is done, like whether you need to be talkative, silent, active, reflective, that's the question. It depends on the group, it depends on the goal, whether you're teaching something specific like how to use Jira, very tool-based, whether you're focusing on skills like business writing or a broader competence like leadership. And depending on what the goal is, the format is, I think this educational expert is capable of picking the proper format.
And here, would it also be fair to say that trainer has engagements that are limited in time? Let's say like however long the course or the training is, that's the engagement, whereas mentor and coach would engage typically for much longer time with, well, at least for indefinite amount of time from the get-go.
Out of my experience in both roles, yeah, that is pretty much sums it up. So as a trainer, I'm hired for a specific event or short set of events. And as a coach, well, I'm not a mentor, so I don't know. As a coach or a consultant, it's usually quite longer position, 12 weeks, 10 weeks. And so it stretches out. And as a trainer, it's a weekend, maybe 2 weekends. And yeah, so it's more finite.
You know, my experience actually differs from this, because I've had coaching for just 2 sessions, and that would resolve my question, and I would stop working with the coach. So it doesn't seem like therapy to me. It's basically like I take as many sessions as it takes to achieve something, and when I feel that I've achieved it, I'm pretty much done. So I've had experiences of single coaching sessions delivering what I need. At the same time, one of the requests we got in Savvy in September is a leadership program for a year. Like there is going to be a group of managers who are going to study different competencies and skills within next year. And so I would say it depends.
Yeah, okay, I agree. Once Slava was my in supervision coach, and that took one set of 3 hours.
Why don't we move up to the consultant if you're pretty much clear on the trainer role?
Okay, I'm not sure if
Dima,
you're
are
clear,
you training?
but let's move.
Are you a
move
trainer?
on.
Dima, what
No.
do you train? You're not doing that.
No, I'm not a trainer. Well, I used to be. Once I used to be. How do you call it? Microsoft certified trainer. So I was certified to deliver different Microsoft development related courses.
Would you wanna remain being a trainer, or sometime in your life you wanna come back to that?
Probably not. I think the at least in from that experience, it was very repetitive. Right, the course materials are official, and you have to stick to them. There is some variability that you can allow yourself as a trainer to maybe build on the strength of the group and so on. But I think for me that would be too repetitive.
And this is not what you want out of being a trainer. Facing this repetitive condition.
I think this is as a person, as a personality trait. This is not my strength. I try to do things well. I want to think of this that I'm trying to do things better, and therefore I try and try to change everything.
I once went to. What I want to say here to you, I once went to. Well, I went there 6 times for the educational purposes. Oldewegte Foundation, which is in the Netherlands, where I got most of my basic education in training, coaching, systemic works, and etc. So we have a saying over there that if you want to get to know something, get a training on that, deliver a training on that. So you would become more familiar with the thing that you will deliver as a trainer. And I'm curious, Dima, what do you think of that?
I would totally agree with that, but I would say reframe this. Let's remember, like our last episode, reframe this as explaining, not training. Like explain this to someone, and this is how you know that you truly understand the concept or idea if you are able to explain it, and that other person will get it.
After all these years working with Dima, I could say that he kind of prefers soft power to some specific direct influence things. And when we were preparing our events points, Dima was actually designing training activities, but he categorically rejected to name them training activities. He'd say no. This is just a friendly talk. That's a discussion. That's anything but training.
Well, I guess maybe that's because my experience with training world was tainted by that experience where everything was very rigid and you had to stick to courseware and whatnot.
That plays a role. Maybe if you do the leadership training in Slava's course for a year, that would create some new background in you.
Let's move up to the consultant, please.
All right. So
are you a consultant, Slava? Savvy is a consultant agency or not?
We have done a few consultancy projects, but that's not our core expertise. You are a consultant, on the other hand, so why don't you define what it means to you?
I think I'm, what's the word? I'm struggling into accepting this as a role of a consultant, because in my head, it's all this McKinsey, Schminsey, and all of that thing. And I'm like, yeah, who the fuck am I? But then the customer or the client who buys my services, he says, yeah, we bought a consultant. Meaning like we bought the services of a consultant. So there's something that in our connection that creates this understanding that for them, it's a consultancy service, which I still cannot accept in me as my role of consultant. But okay, let's try to define it at least. So this is someone or a group of people or an institution or organization that has a knowledge, experience in the specific field that is necessary for the, and consultant to me is a business unit. It works with businesses. So has a necessary experience in a specific domain and has necessary, to me at least, ways of communicating it or adapting it in the organization which is trying to get things done. So basically there should be, in my head, consultants should know how to educate others. But I don't see that this is happening quite often. So these are 4 points that I want to put on consultants' shoulders. Knowledge and in specific domain, experience, knowing how to educate, and specific level of communications.
Mm-hmm.
So Slava,
It's very similar to
all
what
of those.
I have in mind. Yeah, Dima.
I think, I think so. So you seem to agree. I also, I guess, have to agree, right? Not to be the
No,
one.
why not?
Well, I think, but just because I generally agree. I think for me the defining, well, not the defining, but probably the most important characteristic of a consultant or consultancy would be deep expertise in particular domain, which others or other business entities or other people might be interested in their activities, where their activities are not in that domain but touch that domain, like sales, right? Every business has to do sales, but not necessarily every business has a very super deep sales expert on stuff. And therefore the consultancy agency or consultant with very deep expertise in sales can kind of scale their expertise and knowledge and skills and whatnot through to other businesses by providing this consulting. And I guess in order for that to be successful, it is probably a must for the consultant to be an effective educator as well.
Well, in my understanding, a consultant is not actually always a person. It could be an organization or a team. And apart from having experience or expertise in a specific area, they would have to be able to assess the situation. So to run the diagnostics in the team, to plan some sort of changes or activities that have to be done, to run the preparations, if necessary, teach, if necessary, motivate, if necessary, overcome some constraints that could be in the organization, and then support the integration. So assessment, planning, preparation, and integration would be 4 stages that should be delivered. And they could be delivered by different people, by different tools, by different methods. But McKinsey Schminsey would be an institution that can deliver like all 4 levels. And I believe that it could be done even by a person. Let's say Dima, as an engineering consultant, could check what's happening in the technical side of the team, could help them plan what has to be done, prepare people who have to run those changes, and support them in the process.
That's
all right.
I nod in agreement.
Pretty much here. Yep. So let's move to the last one. I think this could be short. It's an advisor.
Nice. That's a role I want to get when I'm older.
Sounds like an advisory board thing, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. The model that I'm practicing right now with one of my clients here, and I've shared this vision with him that, and later on I'd like to have a piece of equity of a company, given my advisory skills and whatever skills that I have, my skill set basically. So it would be paid off both in let's say hourly but also in the equity. So I want to move from just like contract work towards something more long term, and that would create for me a kind of better condition. And it comes with the advisory role, at least how I see it in my head. That's why I needed a mentor. I wanted a mentor, so I would check this out whether this is a right way or not right way. And it seemed that this client of mine is actually interested in that. So this advisor, what would this client look for? Basically, an advice in two fields. One where I am deeply experienced, and another one where I'm not deeply experienced, but at least I can challenge his thoughts on that. And basically, this is a combination to me of mentor / coach, and also consultant. So it's a melting pot of all of that. The only thing that I think is lacking there is like responsibility thing. So I guess with advisors, the responsibility should be clarified. I think so. At least to me, this is important to understand what I'm responsible for in this role more than I do understand it now. I hope it's clear what I meant. Combination of three of things that we have already spoken of. Trainer is not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a combination, then how is it different than any of those?
Because it's a combination, and also you definitely have to have time served in a specific area or domain. So it's your age, experience, it's your knowledge in specific area, but also it's, to me, there's this generalistic thing. So you have to be able to grasp the knowledge in various fields, or at least you have to know also someone. So networks comes in. So that's also the advisory thing, I guess.
Right.
You have to know where to look, or if you don't know where to look, you have to know how to learn how to look as an advisor. So you see, thank you for the question. It brings up a bit more. Yeah, so it's definitely not similar to what we discussed. Takes up way more. So for you, Dima, to be my advisor, I need to trust you. To trust you, how? Because I know you in person, because I know that Slava is my good friend, really likes how you do business, and also you are humane. So the level of communication that you demonstrate is the one that I would accept as the proper one, as a professional one. So then advisor in my head needs to know how to communicate and how to manipulate in a good way. So these are interpersonal skills that are necessary, but also it's a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge itself. So yeah, like not a superhuman definitely, but getting there.
Close to that. And Slava, what are your thoughts on this?
On the first, from the top of my head, I thought that it could be a mentor for organizations on a strategic and business level. So basically, it's a person who can advise things to be done in terms of business, but not in terms of a team or in terms of a specific person. I think an advisor can consult or mentor top managers or specific directions or share one's network. These are all subsidiary goals that are used. But overall, like if I think of an advisory board, for instance, these are people who are there to basically substitute founders in terms of strategic decision-making, setting strategic goals, choosing the direction, setting the vision, and working towards implementation of those, supporting top management team the way it's needed by network, by recommendation, by supervising what plans are created or goals are set, etc. So I would say that that's, again, sharing this knowledge, skills, experience, but to an organization rather than to a specific person.
Interesting.
Dima, what about you?
Interesting. Yeah, I think my thinking is closer to what Andrii laid out, and I would say, to me, again, if maybe the key characteristic or key dynamic of the advisorship process would be that, unlike the previous ones that we discussed with coaching, mentorship, and training, where the kind of the benefit or financial business relationship is very straightforward and direct, you get paid for per coaching session or per coaching season or whatever. Same with training, maybe a little less so with mentorship, but there we can expect that being a mentor can be a part of a job description for a particular person or a specific call that they get. Whereas with advisors, this business component of transfer of value and kind of financial benefit is at least one level removed from the actual thing that's happening. So as Andrii said, like if we build trust with advisors, we come talk to them today, we maybe listen to their advice or take it into account to change our actions in future. And then even in the future from that point, it may bring or bear some fruit, which will be beneficial both for the advisor and for those who listen to their advice, which makes it more kind of multi-stage relationship, which makes it more complex and requires more things to click for this to work as expected.
Can I give you an example and ask to define who this person is according to your grades? Let's say we have a company, 100 employees, and the CEO asks, let's say, Andrii's help to improve the culture, to move this thing in a different direction and facilitate the growth of the company.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrii starts working with this CEO to support this change that is requested by the CEO. Would this be a coach, a mentor, a consultant, or an advisor?
Great question.
Yes, to me, that would, I guess one thing I would ask is how is the compensation structured? If it's Andrii gets
$1,000 an hour,
then I'd suggest that this is not advisory
Not advisory
role, but then maybe coaching, I guess, because the way you framed it sounds like it's not about, well, it is about specific goal, but without a specific method of solution. Like in case of training, right, you would come, we need to cover this topic, and let's say we have like two weeks, and we can bring people together so that you can deliver lectures and do activities and whatnot. So it kind of predefines a method for how this is solved a little bit. So that would be it, and you buy that, right? As a client, you buy that. Since this is not that here, and coaching is like kind of catch-all term, maybe in this domain, I will probably classify, like my first guess would be to classify this as coaching. Does it make sense to you?
It makes sense. I had this exactly the same request. It sounded this way. So that needed a lot of clarification first, of course. So the company thought they were working with a coach because they know me as a coach in general, and the owner was my coaching client, and that created the desire to bring it into the company. So, but then let's see, what is it, like organizational coach? Is it coming to that, or is it consultant? So to me, it was a fluid role, and I would explain them that this is a fluid role that takes two things: the consultant part, where I know the domain and I would suggest things to change, and then the coaching role on an individual level with the team and with the owner. So then these things were defined by me, because it was important not to slip into one of the roles. And in the beginning of my career, I was doing that. So no fun. Yeah, but I'm happy that we've discovered that, because the roles are, it's tricky. So the roles are switching and changing, and I think it's important to elaborate that. What I see is that it's more important to me as the one who gives the service, provides the service to the client. And from my knowledge at this point of life, the client is, I haven't received signals that it was important to distinguish whether I'm a consultant or a coach at the moment. But it's a specific thing of those cases that I had.
Mm-hmm. And what would change if we change the compensation model into profit share? Basically the same request, but you get the profit share from the company.
Perfect. I would become an advisor.
So basically the difference is just the compensation model. You pretty much do the same stuff and operate with the same tools, but you are an advisor.
Right. Well, I think that kind of ties nicely into the question I wanted to ask you guys, that how is success measured for each of those activities or each of those roles? Because it seems to me that what Andrii was describing just recently is the mix of those roles, and why it's important to distinguish between particulars there is that my thinking was that how success is measured is different, right? When you're a trainer, you deliver the training, then there was like questionnaire or something like feedback form after that. If everyone is happy, then yes, that was a successful kind of sort of training. People will feel good about paying money, having paid money for that training. And with consulting and those other things, the success is measured different, right? It probably would not be sufficient to just, we had 2 sessions with you, but if the client doesn't really feel any positive change or see any positive change, they may say was it worth the money that I paid for that? So you need to navigate that kind of situation. And with advisors, and switch over the compensation model, the success is, I guess, bringing the company to the next level so that you can, if you participate in that revenue share, it means that revenue has to happen sometime in the future, and you kind of work towards that rather than keeping the client happy on an instance of interaction of a session or something like that. Does that make any
Is it
sense?
still a question? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So the question is, how does how do we measure success for all of those different kinds of activities, and does it play a role in how we look at them?
Andrew, would you like to answer?
Of course, it does play a role. Let's see. So you mentioned if it's a profit share, let's say, and I'm an advisor, so I'm 100% interested in multiplying profits for the company. So doing whatever possible in my capacity to promote that, to give that a chance. This is no different to me in the role of consultant or a coach. That might be unpleasing to a client sometimes. That's what I've heard from your question, at least. So you distinguish it, whether if it's profit share and it's business oriented, so then it's goal oriented, and the result is clear. The business earns more, but when it's coaching or consultant, you have to please your client. So then it's not necessarily mean the business results. That's at least how we got it. So I'll try to explain from my experience. On the plate, there is desire to, if I'm interested in this client and to work with this client, so there's desire to keep working with this client. At the same plate, there is a desire to give result. What would be the result? Result is something that we assess in the beginning and target and see as a target. What would be a target for our type of work coming from the experience? Cultural change. How do we measure it? There's tons of various methods of evaluation, the current state of affairs at the company on the cultural level, and then do set of activities, specific set of activities, specific set of work, and then in 6 months we measure it again. So this is an objective way of doing that, and there's a subjective way on how those who are involved, my stakeholders, are actually feeling about it and how they're feeling themselves about the change. So I have this subjective and objective ways of seeing how how my service is delivered. I hope this answers your question. And to me, it should benefit the business. So when we talk preliminary and when we assess, I say, is it connected to the business goals? Let's make it connected to the business goals. So then whatever we do here influences the result that you want to achieve. I see it's easier to achieve that, at least at this point of my career, with these companies which are around 200 people-ish, 300 people-ish and less. With the bigger organizations, at this point, I tend to struggle a little bit because it takes way more time until the change is integrated. So it gives this result. Right. So that's my answer.
I'll try to jump in. And if I understood Dima's question correctly, he basically meant what is the definition of done for the work of these sorts of people. And in my understanding, when a coach is working, the success criteria would be that the goals for individual or team are set and achieved in the most effective way. For the mentor, the knowledge is successfully transferred from the mentor to the mentee. For the trainer, the knowledge, skills, and experience are achieved. We are not sure from the trainer or from books, podcasts, whatever, but people are capable of doing things that they wanted to do. For the consultant, the change is defined, assessed, and implemented. And for the advisor, the business is setting the direction and getting the support to move in this direction. So that would be my success criteria.
If these were written in 5 sentences, I would do the print screen of a page and just save it on my desktop.
Well, we could do the script later on. It's recorded, so. Dima, I'd like to get some feedback.
No. I guess that makes sense. But I guess what I was trying to get at is that the thinking about how we define success for a particular engagement can help us understand what kind of engagement that is. And maybe if someone tries to frame this as a training, but the goals or expectations they set are longer term, that would warrant more of a consulting or coaching type of an engagement rather than delivering just a training. And I guess that would be another angle to look at how we can differentiate between those activities.
So we should use that print screen for people who come with requests, so they could define what results they do expect from the interaction.
Gentlemen, I was for maybe 5-10 minutes. For the last 5-10 minutes, I was struggling a little bit with one thing. Slava would know because I know you listened to recent episode of Cortex, or 2 of them, and Mike and Gray there were talking about some sort of a matrix definition for what is and what isn't a podcast, and then it seems to be like a particular format of how that can be done. And I was thinking, should I suggest we do something like that for coaching and whatever we are discussing now, or
like everybody who names oneself as a coach is a coach? Just a specifically trained ICF expert who performs coaching on a specific model is a coach, and then there is a scale that many people get into. Maybe.
Yeah, given that Andrii suggested that we like print those definitions on a piece of paper, we get them to a succinct form and print them on a piece of paper. I think we might
just like with the metrics in Cortex, it's really important. What are the axes there? Like how would you define the scales? And I think that pretty much 40 minutes into this show, we should stop defining things and actually discuss coaching itself, if you don't mind. And I would have my first question to you guys. Could you describe your most memorable coaching experience as coachee, as a person who was receiving some sort of coaching? If it's not too personal, of course.
Silence. Yeah, I will put in like cicadas.
I remember one in February 2021. It was very strong, emotional experience and intellectual as well. So Slava, is the question if I remember? I do.
Could you describe, like, anonymously,
okay,
what was your result? How did it go for you?
It was an existential question almost, in a way. So I quit Parimatch before and went into this consulting reputation agency, but things were not really going well on the chemistry base with the owners and with my partners actually, and there's a lot of resentment that my body felt, but I couldn't really kind of translate it into the verbal language. And I felt the conflict internal, but I couldn't really describe it. So I went to a coach to talk it over, and we did a lot of embodiment work, which I really like, and I do it in my work as well. So we had both intellectual and, let's call it, body work that created integration of specific experience, and ended up that my body knows better, and it knew better that the chemistry that was not working with those people was not working there for a reason. And the coach helped me to figure out those on a verbal level through the body experience that I had over there. And that was fucking revealing, and releasing at the same time. Yeah. So then I departed with the team and went on my own journey. So, yeah.
Quite a fundamental change.
Yeah, man.
Dima,
you bet.
anything in your memories?
Like, definitely nothing as dramatic. And I would have to confess, because I don't think I had much of a formal coaching in my life. I think in at different stages of my life and career, different people played a role of coach for me, but that was not a formalized arrangement. And I guess I cannot remember a specific occasion, but I remember my feelings about that and my thoughts and emotions about a kind of revelation moment where I was thinking of a solution to a particular problem, and I thought I had the greatest thing ever for the specific problem at hand. And then when I had a conversation with the coach, they reframed this thing in a way that first it enabled me to look at the problem much wider. And then I realized how, I think, naive my best possible solution was. And ever since then, people started hearing me say, yeah, let's take a step back, quiet offer. Because like from that point on, I wanted to know, all right, is there something bigger that we are looking at here? And would it make sense to take the bigger picture into account? Because I still remember that experience where I felt, not to say stupid, but maybe close to that. Like, remember, you may have seen that meme or GIF where when a person or a man, I think it was a man, stands under the rain and you can see in their eyes that they kind of have this mixed feeling of regret, not understanding how this happened, and being sad. So that was me, and at that particular moment, and I still carried this experience through my life. And
Curious.
Slava, what's your coaching story?
I would say that one of the most memorable coaching sessions for me was with Oля Ivanova, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. She was a great coach and the master of asking questions. When I came to her with the request of whether I should or should not accept a partner into our company, it turned out that I actually had a different question, whether I should stay or shouldn't stay in Savvy. And after 9 minutes of her questions, I knew both answers, whether I should or shouldn't stay and whether I should or shouldn't accept a partner. That was one of the most effective ways, because I was stuck with this question for weeks. Like, I was hesitating, doubting, there were arguments pro, arguments con, and I was trying just to explode. I was going to explode, but these 90 minutes were just mind-blowing for me. So I would say that questions Ola asked back in that session, they clarified many things for years forward. Ta-da. And after this amazing experience.
Really impressive.
We can
actually, it's your style, Slava. 9 minutes, good questions. Yeah,
it was 90, but still.
90.
Still quite impressive.
Still quite effective. like a football game.
Let's talk about coaching itself. And I would like to ask Andrew, if you were talking to a manager, let's say Dima, he's a team lead. Yeah, he doesn't know much coaching. He didn't study much coaching. If you had to explain to him what are the coaching methods Like, how does the coach work overall? What are the main skills of a coach? If he were to pick a coach for oneself or for his team, for instance.
Let's see. An imaginary situation. Let me clarify. Is Dima interested into learning what I want to say, or he's hesitant and resistant?
Dima, are you interested or are you hesitant and resistant?
Can this be both?
Interested and resistant, yeah.
Curiously resistant.
Yeah, curiously resistant.
So I guess we would also whose request is that? Yours or your manager?
Let's say it's Dima's request as a reaction to one of his managers who suggested that they try it. Dima was like, maybe we shouldn't, but maybe we should. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. So please tell me what it is so I would know whether I actually need a coach or don't.
So I would clarify this basically, where are you coming from and why are you here? So what makes you come here? And then
you see, here he comes. He starts with these questions again.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. So you, Dima, would tell me that, here's the situation. I guess I need to check it out, but I'm hesitant. So then I would ask, what would create a better map of understanding for you? Because I have my own way of mapping things, but you probably have your own map of things. And from what I hear from this 56 minutes right now, you need a very structured understanding of things. So then I would give you the structure of how basic coaching is built, and what are the expectations that you as an individual that would work with me would have, how the session is built, how the contract is built, how we would work. So it's a approach that I use. So it's intellectual and embodiment, let's go this way, and whether this is okay or no go for you. Then I would give you examples on how intellectual one with questions, ping pong, and goes, and then how the embodiment one goes. And I would kind of give you this map, and then I would show you this tool set that I have with me. So we could use drawings, we could use this and that, we could walk, we could sit, lay, and then we could do it in Miro online, we could do it offline with a board, with closed eyes, sitting, standing. So giving you a bit of a map. I guess this would open up you a bit more, and then I would ask questions whether you have questions. So let's clarify how these tools or how these approaches would get you to the results. And at this point, usually you would open up a little bit more, and you would start telling about what is that you actually want to achieve. Or if not, if you're still hesitant, then I would probably try to see the resistance. Where is it coming from? Is it because you don't want to change? Is it because it's too comfortable right now in where you are? Or you have a belief in mind that coaches are all fuckers, and you basically don't want to trust me just because you have your own idea on that. So yeah, and I'm very okay with you not letting me in. So this is the thing. I think it's important. So I want to not show you that I'm interested as much. So maybe we are equal in this in all the times. Does it answer the question?
It does answer to me, Dima.
Yeah,
does it seem to be an answer for you?
Yeah, it does. I think I would be curious to explore a bit more. Maybe this idea of like if the resistance is coming from persons' kind of disbelief in this whole institution of coaching, right? Especially when we try. This is what I've seen, and I think I have a little bit of that in me as well. When we start throwing like certifications and this, that, or different regalia that, hey, I'm XYZ certified, and this is why you need to. Sorry?
EMCC. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Go on.
I'm not sure. I don't know what it is, but from the acronym, I kind of get that this might be like a bit of a dodgy thing. Yeah. So if the skepticism of the person comes from that, so that is it like a real thing or just some sort of a theater that people want me to
I'll give you
participate
an
in?
that I had, if I may. So one thing is where this belief is a limiting thing that limits the development. So I would probably ask you or check whether this type of belief into these coach and mentoring things, do you see that they are they might be limiting you out of the results. So I might check this side. And also I would give you, or I would learn from you. Have you had any real practical experience? And what was the expectation that you had before you had that experience with these people, and then what you got in the end? Because I just had a client here in Vienna who wanted a full-blown consultancy, but said, listen, we don't know you. Let's check, let's do the micro-strategic session first. So then we see, because we had a bad experience with the coach and / consultant. I'm like, So then we did it. It was successful. And they tell me in the end, listen, it's a different story, because the way we had it before was that the coach consultant actually was giving us answers. This is not what we expected. And you gave us the room. So you see, we faced the previous experience, which negatively influenced the approach towards the whole industry. So for me, it was necessary to to have this straw of a hope in a good way, to give the understanding that this works this way, and it might be different from what you experienced. Yeah.
May I also drop in a clarification here? In my understanding, when you split those methods into intellectual, like asking questions, building the framework in a specific way, and embodiment part, where you have to basically make sense of what it feels to you on different levels, emotionally, physically, etc. I would say that working with tech people, especially, you're much more successful with the intellectual part, and it takes a lot of resistance and effort to go through these embodiment activities. That's my assumption. Like, how does it work for you?
I'd like to switch it. Like, I'd like to push it to embodiment more than I'm doing now. I've had absolutely amazing experiences with embodiment techniques on me when I was educated, and when I've been undergoing trainings, when I've been into coaching as a client. Embodiment techniques gave me the most results. They have opened up most of the doors and gave the intellect the way to understand the not only the feeling, but like the state of mind. So in my practice, I tend to keep it in my pocket right now, at least, most of the time. And I'm doing it's on an intellectual way with grounding and some embodiment, where we are closing the eyes and everything, because it's Zoom mostly. So I'm learning the new ways of how to do the embodiment in the digital era. And in the physical space, when I see people in the physical space, and it happens rarely, but I do, well, then I definitely use the combination of both intellectual and embodiment, because it's not that hard. Of asking questions and measuring steps, let's say, and measuring in steps, and just giving a chance a person just to walk towards the goal or whatever, and just measure it with his body or her body. That gives it a little bit different perspective, because the sight is turned on as well. The thinking is turned on as well. Various parts of you. Yeah. But I'm using it only for 10%, unfortunately.
10%. That was one of the questions, but I'll try to expand it a bit more, because in my experience as a coachee, embodiment was hard. Like, it actually takes some openness experience and, I guess, the mindset to go through this stuff. And my question was, would you scale the balance for you as a coachee? What would be the perfect balance of embodiment and intellectual tools? And as a coach, do you use the same balance or a different balance with people you work with?
Yeah, so for me, it would be great to have revelational parts, like 30%, 35% of embodiment, and the rest would be the intellectual part. Let's call it this way. To me, it's all fusion, so it's more of a game, of course, and it's the first time that I'm actually counting that and cutting in percentage.
Welcome to Biweekly.
Yeah, defining. You guys are lords of definitions, and in practice, right now, it's 10% with the potential to get it to 35-ish. Yeah. Sometimes I feel that. Thanks for bringing it up. It's a very honest moment for me that I might I might get to the resentment part pretty quickly with the embodiment technique with the persona that I didn't really figure out that can actually handle it, or is up to it or not up to it, and then maybe I'm afraid to lose contact because of that. So I'm more hesitant. So it's still 10%, but I know the result of it, so it's beautiful. So then, yeah, I guess I'm just a pussy. So I'll have to be less of a pussy.
Yeah. Give it a try and see what happens.
I guess I would also want to step up and kind of in defense of tech people. So tech
there
people
was no
are
offense
not
on the tech people
Not
in
at
the
all.
first place.
are not robots, as a kind of stereotypical thinking might go around that. And to that, I have no idea what embodiment means, but the way I sense it is like kind of appealing to some sort of an emotional feeling part of our brain. And I would say that, at least for me and also for situations I observed as I wouldn't say even as a amateur coach, because by no means I'm that, but I cannot. What's the lowest accidental maybe coach or something like that? That when the switch or shift to the next, let's say, intellectual level happened after the emotional or some sort of a feelings kick, like where people would be very close to new ideas, but then you kind of destabilize them a little bit with emotional kind of thingy or appealing to feelings and whatnot, and then it opens them up to think about things from a slightly different perspective and get to the next step of intellectual understanding of the situation or potential solutions and whatnot. So I would definitely not disregard this whatever is embodiment thing, even with technical people.
We can illustrate it with an example from a movie. One of the movies I enjoy a lot is Peaceful Warrior. And there was an episode when Socrates, one of the characters there, pushed his mentee from the bridge. And the guy fell down the bridge, was super wet, frustrated, angry. And then Socrates asked him, like, what did you feel in the process? One could not name this emotion, could not name this feeling, because there was some physical experience that was just throwing him out of ordinary condition or state. And I think that embodiment parts, they kind of relate to your physical state as well, not just emotional. But for instance, my partner Anna, she can feel some resistance on the body level. Like, her muscles can just be tense in a specific place when some, belief is active. And she's very good at it. Like she can actually, all right, like I'm getting resistant, I can feel it with my back. And when people use the term guts feeling, they can literally mean that they feel it with guts, like physically. It's not a metaphor. It's an actual feeling that
it's a reality.
Get, yeah. So I believe that embodiment is a mix of these emotional and physical sensations. Andrew, you could correct me if I'm wrong.
It's immensely powerful thing to work with, what it takes is the sensitivity towards yourself. So if Anya, your colleague, she can feel it with her back, I can feel it with. I'm a pretty sensitive person myself, and I can sense and read the room without intellect, like not intellectually, but like on sensual way. It was a way of mistakes, and I've made quite a few mistakes on sensing, let's say. But then I guess the body learns, and body knows, but I'm learning how the body reacts. So what is necessary, and I guess this is for Dima, how to understand how this is combined in the tech guys, let's say. Spending time with yourself in, let's say, in a short meditation is already an embodiment technique, which connects you a bit more to you. And this is a very sensitive moment, and that's what I want to commit in my life. I want to have it. This is one of my superpowers, and I know it. I'm not an intellectual coach. I'm intellectual with a lot of sensitivity. So this gives me a different edge. So this is the magic that is being created in my clients' works is because of that, of this combination of mine. And I'm happy that there is quite a large group of coaches who possess both intellectual and central part. And I see that the central part is being developed right now. And I'm happy because this will create more options for the coachees, for the clients. Absolutely unseen, or how to say, unexpected.
Unexplored.
Results. Yeah, and unexplored. Gentlemen, I have 5 minutes. Apologies for that.
Then let's take the last case and round up. Back a few years ago, we integrated coach and feedback as one of our feedback workshops. And it engaged people into requesting a broader training, which was named Managing in Coaching Style. And I can see this tendency growing. Like there are multiple requests that people get that they would like their managers to be able to coach their teams somehow. So my question to Andrew first, what would you put into the agenda of such a workshop if you were to teach managers to use coaching techniques, not to do coaching like the full scale thing, but what would be the essential tools and parts in the agenda of the workshop if they don't have 5 years of exploring themselves?
Or 1 year of leadership program.
Yep.
It's a great one, actually. We've tried to kind of implement that at Paramatch at some point, and I guess it worked at some point. And you, Slava, you were there, so you would see some of the results of those. Leading by doing, I would say. So, and on my own example, I was showing it how it works with my own team. Then my team would share a perspective to other kind of line teams for them. Like, hey, my manager works this way, this works. So that's just one part, but it's not a training. It's not a workshop. It's just subtle way of doing it in an organization. For the workshop, there's this GROW model, like coaching model GROW, which is super famous, super popular for management, and it's super easy to explain it at least. So
it's
I guess
set of questions, like where each letter means something.
I guess we would. It's simple. It's clear and visible, and it's easy to grasp. And I guess we would go through that GROW model for the managers. I would definitely show the benefit. I would definitely show the kind of the problem that there is there. Like, why do we need it? What would they get? How would they evolve as managers? How would their team perform better? But also this not only gives something, it takes something from you. It takes the desire to understand a little bit more who's your colleague is, and give a bit more of room to this colleague, give a bit more room for their ego, not your ego, give a bit more room for actually being interested. So I guess it's not an easy workshop because if we only give the GROW model and tell this works, do it, this might for 2 out of 20. I might see that some supervision might be needed, like in maybe 2 or 3 weeks or a month. Does it answer your question?
So let's check, Dima. If you were a manager who were invited to attend a workshop which is named Managing Using Coaching Techniques, and the description was you would understand what the coaching techniques are, you would learn to ask questions using GROW model, and you would understand how this model can improve your managerial style. Would you attend? Or what kind of questions would you ask to the trainer before signing up?
Generally, I think I would attend because I think of myself as a generally open-minded person, so I would not mind learning about new techniques and methods to do my job.
All right, so next Saturday at 5 p.m., I'm waiting for you in this Zoom room. That kind of works. The question I would have, but I think I would not necessarily have this question as a prospect participant in this training, but a manager of a manager who is a prospect participant would be for that training to kind of balance this new tools and methods against the rest of the job that the manager has to do. Because even if they learn managing by coaching, they are not becoming coaches. And coaching would be one of the tools, but not the only tool for them. And they would also need to learn to balance and choose the appropriate method of achieving the goal they have at hand, so that it doesn't look like after the coaching, every situation is a coaching situation, because I'm far from thinking that would be the case for managers in their day-to-day work.
Oh, yeah.
For me, the success criteria of a podcast, if when the discussion comes to an end, you actually don't want to end it because there is still so much to talk about. And this is exactly this sort of episode. So, Andrew, thank you a lot for sharing your thoughts and ideas and joining us today.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Slava.
Yes.
Thank you, Dima. It's great to be the first one with you.
Well, and traditionally, we would like to wish all our listeners good weeks.
Right. Good weeks. It was a pleasure. Thanks, Andrii.
Good weeks.